Welcome back, fight fans. It's your boy Blue, and with episode 14 now. Obviously, we're going to be talking about, it's going to be a long one today. We're going to be talking about two pay-per-views, of course. The one that just happened, UFC 267, and the next one, UFC 268, Usman and Covington. So, of course, we'll start off with what happened this past weekend. UFC 267, Blachowicz, Teixeira. What a night. Seriously, genuinely one of the best cards that I have ever seen. Seriously. And I would say it's definitely the best card since I started doing this show. It was absolutely insane. It had everything you want. The prelims were great. There was some drama. We saw unreal performances by a bunch of different people, really. The main card was absolutely nuts. The whole night was amazing, and we'll talk all about that. So we'll start off with the prelims. The very first one of the night. This is how, we knew it was going to be a great night because this one was already really good. Just a great display of MMA again. It was Ulanbekov, Nascimento. I probably should have opened with that. Nascimento, I'm still not sure. Had an edge on the feet, but it was pretty close, really. And both of them actually had some pretty deep submission attempts. Nascimento looked pretty dangerous fighting off his back, but because Ulanbekov was on top the whole time, because of the control time, of course, he ended up getting a split decision. Split decision, though, again, we've talked about this. We've talked about this a bunch. And by the way, Khabib was his corner. And it was just like, it's another one of these where it's like, why is it a split? He was literally on top of the other guy for pretty much the whole fight. Like, that's a clear, at least 29-28, because one of the rounds, okay, Nascimento might have won that one. But to say that it's 28-29 the other way, you're out of your mind if you think it was the other way. And yeah, everybody in the octagon, including Khabib, was like, what the fuck is happening already with just the first fight? But again, great fight. This is why we watched the prelims. The prelim after that was one that I had actually picked to talk about. It was Yao Zhang-Hu and Andre Petroski. I picked this one, of course, because Petroski was on The Ultimate Fighter this season. He was the favorite going into it, as I mentioned before. So I went for Petroski by the finish because it just seemed like kind of a mismatched fight. And you know what? I wouldn't really say it was completely mismatched. But Petroski was ahead in every area, basically. In the first round alone, who was hit? My goodness, the puns here. Who was hit just a dozen or more times, really, with huge bombs. How he even withstood to the third round, I have no idea. But in the end, Petroski got a submission with around 15 seconds left. I have no idea how he lasted that long. But great fight for Petroski. I'm assuming they're going to be bringing him back quite a bit. He did pretty good on The Ultimate Fighter. He lost to the winner, so you can't say too much wrong about that. So it'll be great to see him again. The one after that, I gave this one what was I going to say? I gave this one of my blue bonuses. This one was for KO of the night. It was Lerone Murphy defeating Makwan Amirkhani by KO in the second round. I had actually picked Amirkhani to win this on Tapology, and I even actually put a bit of money on him because I thought he was being wildly underrated in this fight, I will say, even though he ended up losing. But the whole first round, that was all Amirkhani. So I was watching the first round. I was getting excited, getting ready to cash that bet to see my points on Tapology. And then out of nowhere, right at the start of the second round, he gets a huge knee to the face, gets knocked out immediately. crazy KO. So like I said, I gave Lerone Murphy that KO of the night blue bonus. That was insane. But again, the whole night was insane, really. I mean, these are just the prelims. These are just the prelims. Next, we had what a fight, really, just insane. Eliseo, I don't even know. Eliseo Zaleski beat Benoit Saint Denis by unanimous decision, which is mind blowing if you were watching this fight. I mean, the fight started off a little bit boring, but by the second round, that's when it really turned up. Zaleski absolutely just lit up Saint Denis, dismantled him, dominated him, threw absolutely everything at him. And the real story, the real reason why this fight was insane is because of the reffing. I mean, if you were on Twitter, on MMA Twitter, or even Instagram or anything like that, you would have heard a lot about this. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Seriously, well, easily the worst reffing display I've ever seen. Not even close. I mean, like I said, he was throwing everything at Saint Denis. He looked done. Like he was done for sure. Like he wasn't defending himself at all. But the ref kept it going, even though the commentators, every single person was like, stop the fight, stop the fight. Even I was kind of thinking like, maybe they should stop this one. And I got to admit, I'm pretty lenient about it. Like if I was a ref, I'd let them go because, you don't want to ruin somebody's night prematurely like that. I mean, but I mean, with that many unanswered shots, you gotta stop it. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But then that wasn't even it. That wasn't even it. After that, I believe it was the round after that. I didn't write that part down. Saint Denis, the guy who was basically dead at that point, got poked in the eye, specifically said he could not see anything. And at that point, right there, if you're the ref, you're supposed to call the doctor. That's just what you're supposed to do. They could be lying, or maybe they're even just trying to get some extra time, whatever. If they say anything like that, anything questionable at all, as a ref, it is your job to say, okay, I'm bringing the doctor in. Whether you like it or not, I'm bringing the doctor in. But he didn't say that. He did not say that. He said, okay, let's keep fighting. So then not even a couple minutes after that, he gets a groin kick. Poked in the eye, blind, already half dead, gets kicked in the groin. And then out of nowhere, and by the way, it wasn't even a bad groin kick, I will say. It was just kind of, it just glanced it. It wasn't hard at all. He wasn't like on the ground rolling or anything like that. He was standing up. He was like, oh, I'll take my time, I guess, especially since, again, he's like a zombie at this point, basically dead. And then the ref takes a point away. He takes a point away for a completely accidental, by the way, groin strike that wasn't even that bad. And yet he lets all of the other shit slide. Like, it was just unbelievable. Every single thing that happened in that fight was like, what is happening? And they were even talking to the commentators, were standing right next to, I believe it was Mark Radner. I can't remember. The head referee at the time, Mark Goddard, that's who it was. The head ref at the time. And even the head ref was like, he was just shaking his head like, what the hell's going on here? What? Yeah. So just easily the worst reffing display I have ever seen in my life. Not even close. And obviously, all of us were kind of like, well, I hope he doesn't get any more fights for the rest of the night. And then they said the next fight after that, they were like, well, yeah, he's not coming back. He's being replaced by Mark Goddard for the rest of his duties. And he's also been asked to leave the stadium. And we also found out later that he was fired. Of course. I mean, come on. Dana White wasn't in the building at that point, but I could imagine that whenever he did see that, he must have been watching on his phone or a laptop or something. He was probably losing his goddamn mind. Oh my God. So yeah, but good for the UFC for seeing that, stepping in, dealing with it real quick. like within half an hour, really, saying, "Get the fuck out of here," to that ref. But yeah, good for the UFC. I do, you got to respect them as an organization for that kind of stuff. That was enough for that one. The second prelim that I talked about last time was Duraev and Roman Kopylov. I highlighted this one because Duraev was just on the Contender Series. So because of that, riding the momentum and all that, I was saying Duraev by finish. And you know what? It was pretty even on the feet, I gotta say. Kopylov landed a big one at the start of the second, and then Duraev started to use his wrestling because he hadn't really done it before that. He got on top only because Kopylov grabbed the fence real bad. So the ref actually stopped them, put them back in a position, got the quick takedown, and then Duraev was on top. And then really right after that, he just kind of dominated the rest of the fight. I mean, he was using the ground and pound and really just saved by the bell by a ridiculously deep submission at the end of the round. So in the end, we saw Duraev getting a unanimous decision win for that one. And the last prelim that I will talk about is, of course, the third prelim that I had mentioned last time, which was Amanda Ribas, Virna Jandiroba. And of course, I was talking about this one, not just because I like Amanda Ribas so much, but because it's also a ranked fight. You got to talk about the ranked fights. I mean, come on. And also, it just has huge ramifications for that division. And I knew it was going to be close. And you don't usually see women's fights that are, you expect to be really good. But I knew going into this, so this one was going to be really good and really close. So I was going Ribas by decision. And this is literally as close as I would have thought it was going to be. Both fighters showed that they're top contenders in the division. I mean, they only have, what, 1 or 2 losses in the UFC so far, or in general, really. And the difference maker for this one was just Ribas's activity. Excuse me. She outlanded Jandiroba by quite a bit, even though it didn't necessarily look like, by the numbers, Ribas definitely won that fight. But if you were watching it, you definitely see it as much closer. And that's why in the end she did end up winning by the decision, but it was 29-28. So it was pretty close. After that, so that's my dishwasher with the beeping. After that, what is next for Amanda Ribas? Well, she's still obviously a pretty serious contender. So, I mean, her only loss is to Marina Rodriguez, who we just saw beat Mackenzie Dern, which is huge. So, again, she deserves somebody in the top 10, of course. And you know what? We haven't seen the karate hottie Michelle Watterson in quite a while. I would like to see that. That seems like a pretty good matchup. I think that would be pretty good. Another matchup, maybe Nina Nunes or Claudia Gadelha, who are both coming off losses to more top people. So that kind of makes a lot of sense doing those. After that, by the way, just to point it out, 3-0 on the prelims with that. And actually, just saying, I got all of them right on Tapology. Anyway, enough about me getting things right. Then we had the main card, of course. We had Magomed Ankalaev and Volkan Oezdemir opening up the main card. And I even said this was going to be a pretty tight one. But because of how active, what did I say here? Because of who Ankalaev has fought, I was saying he fought the much tougher people. So I gave him quite a bit of an edge, especially since you're in that division. I was like, okay, so we're probably going to see an Ankalaev finish. And this was another pretty closely fought bout, actually. Didn't see a finish, but Ankalaev just showed he's just on a just completely different level than Oezdemir. He landed the cleaner, more powerful blows, and he controlled Oezdemir along the fence. He was just way ahead, really. And he won 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. I'm not really sure where the 29-28 came from, but I definitely saw it 30-27. And what's next for him? He's proving to be pretty dangerous in this division. Easily compete with a top 5 contender. I think that would be pretty good. Dominic Reyes, possibly, after losing the last few fights, that might be a good idea. Santos might also be a good idea. Because, I mean, honestly, you know, we talked about it a bit. Santos wasn't really all that impressive. And maybe he could earn that spot in that top, what is he, second or third, somewhere there. You know, that makes a lot of sense to me. Also, I think they were saying something about Anthony Smith pulling out against Rakic. So a lot of people were saying Ankalaev against Rakic soon. That would be pretty good. I think it might be a little bit of a quick turnaround because I'm not quite sure. That was either for December or January. That might be a bit quick. I don't know. But you know what? I'd like to see it. I mean, I would love to see it, really. Yeah, so that's another good option. And then, oh my God, what was after that? One of the craziest performances we've ever seen. The return of Khamzat Chimaev against Jingliang Li. Oh my God. Like, I'm not going to lie, like on Tapology and on my bets, actually, they were all putting on, and especially on Bet99, they were saying the over-under was at 1.5. I was like, okay, you know, okay. I mean, you know, Chimaev's got a lot of first-round finishes. I get it. But it's the first-ranked contender he's fought. So I was like, also, apparently, I didn't know this, but Lee had never been finished either. So I was like, okay, you know, I'm thinking second round. So I went over on the 1.5. Clear mistake. I should have known. Being the legend that he is, Chimaev came in there. Oh my God, like unreal. Did not get hit once again. Picked him up off his feet once again, which is still mind-blowing. He literally just picks him up, walks him to the other side of the octagon, throws him on the ground, still didn't even get hit once, submitted him. It was a scary submission too. I mean, and by the way, Lee actually did fairly well trying to get out of those submissions. Chimaev actually had a couple attempts in there. Somehow Lee got out of a few of those, but I mean, it was just too much. And yeah, Lee was done. He had to tap there. It was insane. And it put him to sleep too. Didn't tap, actually. I just remembered that because I wrote it down. Did not tap. Put him full out to sleep. In fact, he was still asleep when Chimaev was being announced the winner. I mean, it was unreal. It was so crazy. This guy, I mean, what else can you say? I gave him 2 blue bonuses for the most valuable fighter, one of the most valuable fighters. I gave out 3. Oh, I actually forgot to mention that. One of the other blue bonuses that I gave out for most valuable fighter was Saint Denis in that fight with the crazy ref, because I mean, despite everything that was happening, he still fought through it. He was still trying to compete, even though he was clearly done and not supposed to be there. So, I mean, you got to give it to him for at least making it to the end of that fight. That was my first most valuable fighter. The second one, of course, being Chimaev. Of course, if you completely shut out a ranked contender like that, after taking a year off because of COVID, well, he actually had COVID too, which is, again, even more impressive because he actually had it pretty bad. So, I mean, just all of those things combined, and he comes back, shuts out Lee. I mean, in the first round again. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So, of course, I gave him a bonus. And, of course, I gave him a submission bonus too for submission of the night because, I mean, if you can do that without getting hit and getting multiple deep submission attempts like that and then finishing it off by putting him to sleep, you're going to get a bonus. I mean, you know. So what is next for him? I mean, honestly, it seems like he's pretty much capable of beating literally anybody in welterweight or middleweight because he's competed in both now and nobody's had any kind of answer whatsoever. So he could fight anyone. He could fight Bilal And you know what? Bilal, I saw on Twitter, he actually even said, he said to his agent, I don't mind fighting Hamzat in January or February. Good. I mean, you know, Bilal is kind of one of those people that's like, I'm not saying like, why is he there? But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, he's not really on the same level. So that seems like a good choice. Chiesa just lost. Maybe throw Hamzat at him. Magny, that's another good one. They'd all be pretty good matchups for Chimaev, honestly. They'd favor him pretty well. But I mean, what I would be interested in seeing, though, is since he's only been hit once or twice, I thought it was twice. That's what I said in the last stream. But apparently, one of those was not significant. So he's only had one significant strike. So why not put him in there with one of the most dangerous strikers, not just in the division, but really in the UFC? Wonder Boy Thompson. Why not do that? That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, you know, sure. Again, what you're probably going to see, especially since Luque kind of did this to Thompson, you're probably going to see a similar thing where he rushes into Wonder Boy, picks him up, and does the same thing. But you might not, because again, he is a very, very talented striker. Likes to keep people at a distance, and he's really good at judging that kind of thing. So that could be something. I mean, I would think he's going to hit him more than once. I could be wrong. He might get hit more than once. I don't know. But that would definitely be the best striker that he's ever faced. So I think that would be a good one. But you know what? Again, he could fight at middleweight too. At middleweight, why not throw him at Gastelum, Strickland, Till, any one of those three even? I mean, just in general, I mean, all three of those would be really good, especially after Till, Till and Gastelum, they just lost. I would like to see either one of those. But again, Strickland, his guy just left. So Rockhold, I think it was. Either way, honestly, I think this is the end of his shutout streak. I would be surprised. I would be shocked, actually, if he didn't get hit in his next fight. I do think that he's probably going to keep winning, at least the next one. I think he's going to win the next one. And then, honestly, if he does win that, I really do think that he's in line for a title shot. I mean, especially if you're thinking, he's probably going to be in a main event because of the huge, huge star power he has now. Also because, I mean, he's going up there and just dominating people. So I think he's probably going to be in a main event. So what was I going to say here? Yeah. So, I mean, if he wins that one, even similarly, like even in the second round or the third round or something like that, and does kind of a similar thing, I mean, how do you deny him a title shot, really? Especially since that division is fairly, that's Usman's division. I mean, there's really not too many people there. It's like, Usman, Colby, maybe, and then kind of everybody else. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that somebody as dominant as Chimaev, it makes a lot of sense because also he's never fought Usman, obviously, either. So it kind of just makes sense all around that if he wins the next one, title shot is next. And then if he wins that, I honestly don't know if he would win that. I really think Usman has he has a pretty good chance. I mean, he's pretty dominant. And we're going to talk about him later, of course. But if he wins that, I mean, double champ, go up. But, we'll talk about all that in the future. Well, we're like a year away from that now. Well, at least 6 months. So after that ridiculous display, it was kind of going down a bit in talent. There we got Volkov, Tybura. I don't know why they put this ahead of Chimaev. I mean, they should have known, really. Volkov just came off of his loss to Cyril Gane. So, and he's just way more experienced in general. So I had said Volkov by decision. And you know what? It was very close, but Volkov just kind of edged ahead with the extra activity. And this is kind of what I said last time. I was like, well, because Volkov is so tall and so long, Tybura might have a slight problem, although he is pretty similar in height and reach. But that's exactly what happened, actually. I mean, he was so tall that he couldn't get the takedowns, and he couldn't get his range down because he was too long. So we saw Volkov win by unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. And what is next for Volkov? That is a very good question. Since Lewis and Dawkins are slated to fight soon, it seems to make sense that Volkov should face the winner of that fight. Makes sense to me. Another possible fight would be the return of Stipe, because we haven't seen Stipe since he lost the belt to Ngannou. So that might be a favorable matchup for Stipe. I would say I think Stipe would probably pretty easily win that. But yeah, that makes sense. And then, like I said, Volkov against the winner of Lewis and Dawkins. That would also make a lot of sense, because then really whoever wins that might get a title shot. Or if we're maybe seeing John Jones, maybe, he might come in against Stipe. That would make a lot of sense. And then maybe the winner of that would go up for the belt. Who knows? I mean, heavyweight's just kind of all over the place right now. That's kind of what happens, though, when you've got an interim and the belt, and then people are moving up and down, it's basically the same thing that's going to happen with bantamweight, which again we'll talk about very soon. It's the next fight after this one. So after that, we had Islam Makhachev, Dan Hooker. I mean, the odds were pretty one-sided on this one, but I gotta say, going into it, I really thought that Hooker had not a great chance, but he had a decent chance. In fact, I actually put a couple bucks down on Hooker because I was like, the odds are so crazy. And you know what? He could get a crazy KO. Who knows? He could do something, or even just tough it out to get a decision. That's kind of what I thought where it was going with that. I thought it was going to a decision. I said last time Makhachev by decision. But boy, was I wrong about that. Makhachev just really showed how much. I mean, he must have improved quite a bit, because he did not do that to Dober or anybody else. And he was just unreal this fight. I mean, in the first round, and he showed really why he's such a huge betting favorite. He stuck to his plan, got the takedown right away, used that Dagestani pressure, and got a disgusting submission win. I mean, he almost broke Hooker's arm, really. Even when I was watching it, I was like, oh no, don't break Hooker's arm. Not like this. No. He almost broke it, but they tapped, they ended it. But yeah, first round, oh my God. Devastating for the Hooker fans out there. And what's next for Islam? I mean, he said it himself. He seems to be next in line for the title shot for the winner of Poirier and Oliveira. And it's kind of tough to argue with that. I mean, especially after that. I mean, he just beat Hooker the first round. And I mean, let's not forget, though, Poirier went to a decision with Hooker. I mean, Chandler kind of did the same thing to Hooker, but still, it's Hooker is Hooker. Like, he's not some kind of schmo or anything like that, right? And he may not be the most entertaining fighter in the division, but he's definitely a dangerous title contender. So don't mistake the lack of star power. He could genuinely win. He could genuinely be the lightweight champ less than a year from now. I really could see that. I really could. Because I'm just thinking, if he fights Poirier, I don't know. I don't know how Poirier is going to deal with that, because he's just so good. So good at that. Oliveira might have a better chance because Oliveira is so good on the ground. He might have a better chance there. Which is why I think Oliveira is going to win. But we're going to talk about that in a few weeks when they fight. I think is it next month? I think it's December. So yeah, I mean, crazy things in the future for Islam for sure. I mean, he's getting a title shot within the next year for sure. I'm so sure about that. So after that one, we had the co-main, and I gave this one my brawl of the night, Blue's brawl of the night, Blue bonus. That was Piotr Jan and Corey Sandhagen. And I even said it, and the odds were not really completely one-sided, but I think they were at minus 300, minus 200. I didn't really think that was fair. And they backed it up. I thought right away this was going to be a really close fight. And that's exactly what we saw. What was I going to say? Yeah, it was just as close as we thought it was going to be. I mean, most people thought that Sandhagen won the first couple rounds. The judges didn't. But most people thought he won the first couple rounds. I did. He had way more output there. So I definitely saw it 48-47. But anyway, in the third round, though, Jan just took over. He started, after actually he knocked Corey down. And then after that, it was really just all Jan. He was just, he was just outboxing him, outstriking him, doing everything really. But I will say it was pretty close, though. And I would have been a little surprised if the judges had chosen Sandhagen. But at the same time, it wouldn't have been like a huge robbery or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, the judges said it was 49-46. I would say it was 48-47. But yeah, still a crazy fight. I mean, both of them really just showing that they really are, I would say, easily first and second. Dillashaw probably third. Second, third are kind of a toss-up, especially after what we saw a couple months ago with Dillashaw Sandhagen. But I mean, most of us kind of thought Sandhagen won that. But anyway, for Jan, I mean, there's really only one way to go from here. He's obviously got to go fight Sterling again. I mean, as long as he doesn't make a huge mistake like he did last time, he should easily win. And honestly, he looked better this time than he did then, which is crazy because Sandhagen was so good. But he looked unbelievable. So, I mean, you got to think that Jan's probably going to get a finish out there. And then he'll probably have to fight Dillashaw because he's basically the only other person up there right now. As for Sandhagen, he showed us he's definitely worthy of being the number one contender. I think really he is the number one contender for sure. I have a feeling that what's next for him is probably Merab. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Merab is on his way up. I think he's on a crazy win streak right now. So I think that's really the only thing that makes sense for both of them. And I think that would be a great fight. I'm not even really sure who would win that. I would probably lean Sandhagen, but honestly, I could see Merab taking that. Excuse me. After that, we had the main event, Blachowicz Teixeira. What a shock. Seriously. Oh my God. Going into this, I was like, okay. I mean, like, I know why they gave Teixeira the title shot. He's getting older, and yet he won his last few. So I get it. I get it. But honestly, I was like, I just don't think that Blachowicz is he's not in the same level as Teixeira. I think Blachowicz is just so much better that I'm thinking Blachowicz is going to get the finish. That's what I said. I even wrote it down here. But guess what? Shocked pretty much, most fight fans, I would say. I definitely thought, oh yeah, Jan definitely came in with the obvious edge and power, but I mean, this whole fight was Glover. It wasn't even close. I mean, it really wasn't. I was shocked. At the very least, what I thought was going to happen, and that's why I actually bet on the finish to be in the third or the fourth round, maybe even the fifth, because I thought, okay, Glover's probably going to get him down or maybe pin him against the fence, something like that, kind of take away some of that power. Little did I know that he was actually going to take him down to the ground and completely dominate him there. He couldn't even move. Like Glover, the first round at least, he didn't really do anything on top. He was just holding him there, and Jan couldn't do anything at all. He was flailing around, trying to get up, using anything he could to get up. Couldn't do anything. Nothing at all. Unreal. And then in the second round, Jan showed a glimmer of hope there by getting a good one in there, but then it was over. Glover just took him down to the ground again. got a great sub. I mean, yeah, just I'm sure the power behind that was unbelievable. And he got the submission win in the second round. And you know what? Like I said, I'm a fan of Blachowicz, but both of these fighters are great people. And it's amazing to see that Glover's dream has finally come true. He just had his 42nd birthday, so that was already kind of cool. But I mean, also just the whole story of him coming to the UFC, being here for so long, never really getting that chance. I mean, it's just a really cool story. I'm sure they're going to make a documentary about it. I'm sure. I'm sure. But yeah, it's just a great story. Good for him, even though he absolutely destroyed my parlay. I had an eight fight parlay going, people. I had all first 7 ones right, and he fucked mine up. But that's okay. Again, what a great guy. He deserved it. And what is next? What's next? I mean, we all know it's got to be Yuri. Yuri was the backup for this fight. And he is just, to me, miles ahead of everybody in the division. So, I mean, yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Glover, he earned that belt for sure. He earned the belt. It definitely was not a fluke. He dominated Jan the whole time. But can he stand up to somebody like Yuri? I just don't know. I mean, he's way younger. Not only that, but he is scary shredded. He is an absolute beast. And not only that, he's so creative and different and fast. I mean, it's just unreal to watch. I just don't think that Glover can handle that. I just don't. So I think we're going to be seeing a new champ pretty quick. But I cannot wait for that fight. I mean, just Yuri watching Yuri fight in general is just unbelievable. It's so crazy how good he is. But yeah, I don't know when they're going to do that. Probably 4 months, 3-4 months from now, maybe. Because also actually, yeah, Glover didn't even really get hit that much. So why not have it in February or something like that? Anyway, that was it for UFC 267. We'll come back talking about UFC 268 after this short break.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back. We're here with the second half, and that is going to be, of course, UFC 268, Usman, Covington. We'll start with the main card, of course. And I mean, another crazy night coming up. I mean, you've got 2 high-stakes rematches. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure if either one is deserved, but, whatever. We'll get into that maybe a little bit later. And then we've got a pretty decent main card too between 2 of the top lightweight contenders, Gaethje and Chandler. I mean, this is going to be great. I will say I don't think it's going to stack up to what we saw last week, but I mean, how can you? It was just so good. But it's still going to be a great card nonetheless. So we'll start off with the main card. Thankfully, it starts at 7, the regular time. Oh, I can watch it live again. Last week, I had to watch it on Fight Pass hours after it was done. So I couldn't have fun on Twitter like I normally do. It was torture. I also couldn't even write notes. I had to write notes on my phone instead of on my laptop. It was a disaster, but it was still a great time, of course. Anyway, back at 7 o'clock, the main card. We have Frankie Edgar and Chito Vera. I don't like Marlon Vera. I like saying Chito Vera because it just sounds way better. But yeah, we've got those two opening up the card. Finally, we see Frankie Edgar again. Of course, last time, ouch, he got absolutely just, I mean, he turned into a statue from Sandhagen's knee. Oh yeah, they're ranked. Edgar's ranked 8th coming into this. Vera is ranked 13th. But you know, I think honestly, there's just a huge difference in experience. Obviously, I mean, you know, Edgar. Well, he was fighting in the featherweight division before, so you got to remember that, which is actually even more impressive. So he was fighting everybody that was well known up there. He fought Korean Zombie, Holloway, Ortega, Aldo. And now he's down here and looking like a top contender too. Of course, like I mentioned, you saw the KO loss to Sandhagen earlier this year. But you know, Vera has a slightly better record as of late, but nothing special. I mean, you know, he beat Davey Grant by decision, which isn't really much to say. And then he beat the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. And really, did he actually beat him? Honestly, no. I'm on the side of Sugar here. He didn't really win that. I mean, Sugar literally beat himself. He took a misstep, broke his own. Well, I don't know if he broke it or not, but he fucked up his own ankle, couldn't walk anymore, and then that was it. Basically, I mean, you can't fight with one leg. So. And I mean, you know, and it was literally nothing that Vera did whatsoever. So, and Sean was winning before that. So, you know, it's just one of those freak things. So, yeah, I even wrote down here the flukiest win I've ever witnessed in my life. Yeah. So when you're combining that, I mean, you know, Vera does have some obvious edges, of course, being his age and maybe, you know, a couple inches of reach, but just that huge extra bit of experience for Edgar, I think, is just so overwhelming. I think it's going to be a very close fight, and we're definitely in store for an exciting brawl. I really do. This is going to be a great fight. But I just think that Edgar is going to show how good he is and how experienced he is and win the decision. That's what I think he's going to do. He's also one of the most active. I mean, for his age too, he's so active. He's so quick. He never stops moving. I mean, I just think that with the experience, I think he's going to come out ahead on this one. And we'll look at the odds, of course, on Bet99. I will throw up the ticker there. If you follow that, you get the instant match bonus of 600, which of course is also linked in the description below if you want to check that out. And I find the odds on this one absolutely fascinating. They have Vera at minus 180, and Edgar at plus 142. I really, really do not see it that way at all. This is a perfect time to bet on an underdog right here. I know I will. I'm betting on Edgar for sure. And with the over-under, you've got over 2.5 at minus 172, under 2.5 at plus 133. I really do think it's going to be a decision, but you know, those odds are a bit high for me. I probably wouldn't take that. You might want to, you know, throw a dollar or two at the under just in case somebody gets a wild KO in there. You never know. But I might stay away from that. But yeah, bet on that underdog all day. Frankie Edgar at plus 142. Come on now. Definitely going with that one. After that, Shane Burgos, Billy Quarantillo. Just like the first one in this main card, I think this is a great matchup. They really did a good one here. And Burgos has looked very strong in the UFC so far. Only 3 losses, which sounds like a lot, but it's to Cater, Emmett, and most recently, Barboza. So you're not talking about a bunch of scrubs. Like those are three that are definitely in the top of the division. And keep in mind, he only lost by decision to Emmett, and he was competing with Barboza until the third round when got one of the weirdest KOs I've ever seen, where he got hit and he was fine for like 5 seconds and then he fell back. It was crazy to watch. Anyway, but he was competing before that. So that says a lot right there. And Quarantillo has only lost once in the UFC, and that was late last year to Gavin Tucker, who is pretty good. But otherwise, he's looked pretty strong. But he's also, again, never fought somebody at the top, because Gavin Tucker, he's good. But can you say that Gavin Tucker is the same as Cater or Emmett or Barboza? Not really. So this is another one where I think the experience is going to throw it over top, I think. But like I said, I do think this is going to be a close fight, and I think we're probably seeing a decision. I'm going Burgos by decision on this. And if you look at the odds, you've got Burgos minus 200. Not bad. Plus 160 for Quarantillo. You know what? You could include Burgos in a parlay there. Even just throw some money directly on Burgos. I like those odds. They're not high enough that make you think. They're pretty good. And for the over-under, they've got minus 143 for over 2.5, plus 110 for under 2.5. Maybe, I think it could go either way here. I think that's pretty reasonable. You could even maybe throw at plus 110. Not a bad idea to do under 2.5, because they're not like the ones we were just talking about who don't have any quit in them. Both of these guys, there's a chance. There's a chance. Do what you will with that. I'd be okay either way. After that, but yeah, obviously Burgos jumping out ahead there. After that, possibly, I don't know, actually, never mind. I was going to say possibly the best matchup of the night, but I mean, that's got to be the main event. It's got to be. Maybe the second best matchup of the night then. Gaethje, Chandler. Oh my God, yes. I mean, for sure. This is the first of the three that are highly anticipated for the night. Of course, you've got this one. Then you've got the rematch between Rose and Wei Li. Then after that, you've got Usman and Covington. This is the first of that trio. And those are going to be three ridiculous fights, I think. I mean, no matter what happens, if we see a KO, it's going to be insane. If we see subs, it's going to be insane. If we see a decision, it's going to be insane. All three of these, it's going to be crazy. Anyway, so this one really is a complete toss-up to me, I think. I mean, both fighters are coming off of title shot losses. Gaethje, of course, lost to Khabib. Makes sense. Chandler lost to Oliveira. But, I mean, you could argue that Gaethje in general has fought the tougher people. But when you're talking about, because I mean, Chandler was in Bellator until he fought Hooker. So, you could definitely argue that Gaethje has fought the stronger people. But when you're at the top of the division already, it doesn't really make much sense to talk about resumes as much. It's not really as relevant to me. So, which is why, like I said, this one is very, very close. Both of them have a lot of power on the feet, and both of them actually have a great ground game too. Honestly, a lot of people forget that Gaethje grew up as a wrestler. He might not use it as much as other people do against him, and he probably should use it a lot more, but he is a wrestler. Don't forget that. But of course, Chandler, I just think he's probably a better wrestler. I'm just assuming, from what I've seen especially. Yeah, so for me, this one, it comes down to whoever just comes in stronger on the night. I really do. It's that much of a toss-up for me, especially considering this is a 3-rounder. We're not talking about a 5-rounder here. Yeah, I really do think that this one has a very good chance at going the distance. And remember, I forgot to mention this already too, that Chandler was winning that title fight. He was winning the first round for sure, like easily winning. I thought for sure he was going to win the first round. For me, that's why I'm actually edging towards Chandler on this one. Also because I just think his style of fighting, just the way that he fights, it favors a decision, especially since I'm not really sure. Well, actually, no, Gaethje could get a KO for sure. I was going to say I'm not really sure if he could. But again, just the way that Chandler is so well-rounded and uses that well-roundedness, because again, we mentioned Gaethje is well-rounded, but he never uses his wrestling. So I think that Chandler is going to edge him out just because he's using all of those skills at the same time. Either way, you don't want to miss it, but I'm leaning towards Chandler on this just because I think he just has I think he has a slight edge. And what's interesting to me is that the odds are not really even close on this one. So this is the perfect time to pick an underdog, no matter which way it was. Even if I wasn't favoring Chandler, I'd say you should pick the underdog because Gaethje right now is sitting at minus 217. And I really don't think that's warranted at all. Not even a little bit, because I mean, what has he done recently? Really? I mean, he lost to Khabib, which wasn't even close. And he beat Ferguson after what? Like, after in the 5th round, I think, because of basically a doctor stoppage almost, because he was just, yeah, he did beat Ferguson for sure. But I mean, we've seen what's been happening to Ferguson. So I don't know. I just don't find him as impressive recently as Chandler, because Chandler KO'd Hooker in the 1st round, and then he was winning the fight against Oliveira in the 1st round. So to me, I just think Chandler is just doing way better. I don't know. So I think this is a very obvious choice to take the underdog here at plus 175 for Chandler, for sure. And you know what I find even more interesting is that the over-under is at 1.5 here, not 2.5, at 1.5. So I mean, you got to take the over on this. The over is minus 116. The under is minus 110. I think you got to take the over 1.5. I just can't see either one. I mean, there's definitely a chance that somebody could land a bomb and win in the 1st round, but I think they're so evenly matched and so, yeah, I just think it's going to be so close that I can't say that it's going to be under a round and a half. I gotta say it's over a round and a half. That's what I'll be betting. I'll definitely be putting some money on that. So I think this is a great one to throw some money at. Chandler at the underdog, over 1.5 at minus 116. I think that's perfect. Perfect. I wouldn't link them together, but I would bet on both of them separately. After that, this is, I believe, by far the closest matchup of the night in terms of the odds. Let me see. Pretty much, yeah, it is one of the closest ones. The second closest, I'll say. We've got Thug Rose defending the belt against the rematch with Weili. Again, I don't know. I just don't know why. Honestly, all of the odds on this one are mind-blowing to me. Looking at them, they're blowing my fucking mind. Because yes, Weili is very good. I totally see that. But let's not forget, she got KO'd in the 1st round. In what universe does that qualify you to get a rematch? I just don't. I'm seriously at a loss. Like, why are we seeing a rematch here? I don't know. So for me, that alone, I mean, you just forget everything before that, really. You don't even need to pay attention to that. Even just looking at what Rose did last time, I mean, how do you not lean towards Rose for sure? Like, I mean, you have to. And I mean, we've already heard that Rose has crazy knockout power. We've heard that from quite a few different people, how strong Rose is. And I mean, again, she just won. It was 4 months ago or 6 months ago. Is there enough time to improve that much in 6 months? I just don't think so. I don't. I think Weili should have fought somebody first, let somebody else have a title contention, a title shot. That's what I think. So, I mean, I'm going on Rose here, and honestly, it's 5 rounds. I mean, I think we're going to see a finish again. I mean, she got a 1st round finish. I don't think we're going to see another 1st round finish. I don't think so. But I do think we're going to see probably a finish. I would have to imagine. I don't know. That's just the way I'm going on this. And the odds to me on this are crazy. They've got Rose at minus 105 and Wei Li at minus 117. Like, what? Like, it's just crazy to me because Wei Li lost in the first round and she's got the better, like, it's absolutely insane. Throw some money at Rose for sure. This is criminal. She's being criminally underrated here. She's literally the champ. Knocked her out the first round last time. I mean, it's fucking insane to me. And not only that, but if you look at the over-under on this, they've got over 4.5 rounds. So basically a 5-round decision they're calling for here, minus 125. And they've got under 4.5 at plus 100. Like, I mean, were we watching a different fight? Like, we're talking about a first round KO, and you're telling me that the bettors are thinking, oh, it's going to be over 4.5. Like, you can't not throw some money at that. You got to throw some money at the under 4.5. I mean, sure, we might see a decision. I could see that for sure. They're both very good, but you can't throw that out the window. What just happened? I mean, you got to throw money at Rose. You got to throw money at under 4.5. These odds are wild. Throw some money at it. It's crazy to me. And the last one of the night, of course, we'll talk about the prelims after, but the last fight, the main event. Oh my God, good versus evil, really? That's what we're talking about here. Usman, we won't talk about the odds yet. Of course, we'll talk about the lead up. To me, this is another one it's really undeserved. I don't really know why Colby's getting this rematch. Like, he fought a year ago against Tyron Woodley. And I mean, do I even need to mention the fact that Woodley's career is, it's gone a little downhill since then? I mean, we're not talking about Woodley from 3-4 years ago who was just smoking everybody. Like, we're talking about Woodley who broke his rib in the Covington fight, didn't really fight very well, got smoked by, what was it, Gilbert Burns, I think, for what was that? He lost, what was it, like 12 rounds in a row or something like that since he lost his belt. I mean, and it's crazy to me that he's getting this rematch. I don't know. And then on the other side, you've got Usman who fought, what did he do? Since then, I should say, since Colby last fought, he fought 3 times. 3 times. He fought Masvidal twice. The first one, easy decision, wasn't even close. And I mean, sure, you could argue, okay, Masvidal, whatever, he came in, had to lose 30 pounds in a week, whatever. Okay, whatever. That's fine. He still won, though. But then what he did to Gilbert Burns, that was crazy, because Gilbert Burns is not somebody that you can just dominate like that. So the fact that he did that is insane. And then after that, came back against Masvidal again, knocked him out, brutal KO. We see it all over the place. I mean, it was insane. And that was the first time Masvidal has ever been knocked out. So, and I mean, again, he's number 1 on the pound for pound list. I mean, you can see where I'm going with this. You're obviously leaning towards Usman here. And you got to honestly think that he's going to get a finish. I mean, he's just improved so much over the past year. It's crazy to watch. I've seen his last 4 fights, I believe, and just seeing him get better and better, it's absolutely crazy. And can we say that Covington's done that? I don't know. I mean, his last win is against Woodley, who isn't ranked, isn't even in the UFC. And I mean, his career is in the toilet basically now. I mean, that win just basically means nothing now. So again, it's just such an undeserved rematch. I just don't see it. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going Usman by finish for sure. And if you look at the odds, I mean, really, pretty much everybody's seeing that way too. Definitely the people betting. You've got Usman at minus 325, Covington at plus 250. I mean, You could bet outright on Usman, but honestly, this would be one that I would throw in a parlay. I wouldn't throw any of the other main cards on a parlay. I would not do that. Because like I said, most of the ones I picked are underdogs, which I think are rightful that you should bet on them. But should you put them as a parlay together? No, I don't think so. But yeah, so I'm going for sure Usman, throw it in a parlay. We'll talk about one of the parlay attempts later, which will be Phil Hawes. I think that's a great parlay one in there. And there's Ian Gary at minus 400. That seems like a good one to throw in there. And we'll talk about Jacoby later. Jacoby's at minus 350. That's another great one. Bagdasarian, actually, I'm going to be talking about him in the prelims too. Minus 350, another one. So, I mean, honestly, all of those are very rightfully huge favorites. So I would definitely throw those together as a parlay. And then the over-under on this one, they've got over and under 3.5 rounds. 3.5. They're saying over 3.5, minus 155, under plus 120. And I mean, I actually would not know which one to do here. If it was 4.5, I would say I would probably bet the under, but 3.5, I'm not quite sure, honestly. I'm really not, because I do think that Usman is wildly improved and he very clearly has every edge in every department, but Colby's pretty fucking tough. And I think we all know he has no intention of giving up in this fight whatsoever. I mean, no. I mean, if you've seen any interview with this guy, absolutely fucking crazy. So, like, he's not giving up on this one. So, do I think that he's going to lose in under 3.5? I'm not quite sure. But Usman does have wild power, and we saw what he did to Masvidal. And Masvidal is a great, great boxer. So he might get a KO in under 3.5 at plus 120. You might want to actually throw a few bucks at that. I might do that myself at plus 120, under 3.5 rounds. Maybe I might do it. I might have to. After that, I'm not after that actually. Now we're going to talk about the prelims. Of course, I have some prelims. I always have a couple prelims that I like to feature, because we want to watch all the fights, not just the main card. Of course, the prelims start at 3 p.m. this time. Thank you for being back at the regular time. Fantastic. The first one I want to talk about is Shabazian and Nasruddin Imavov. Why was I going to do that? Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll see in the odds later why I'm going to pick this, but you've got Shabazian ranked 11th against the rising contender. Excuse me. Wow. What's happening to me? Rising contender Imavov. And that's why I picked it, of course, because they're ranked fighters. You got to include any. I mean, if you're going to cover anything, you got to cover the ranked fighters. So, of course, we're talking about this one. And you know what? Edmund has had a rough time recently with 2 losses in a row, but it was to Brunson and Hermansson, and both of those very understandable because they're very, very good. But let's not forget that before that, he was undefeated. So, I mean, we're not talking about somebody who's, jumping up and down all over the place. This guy was undefeated before he fought Brunson. So, yeah. And then on the other side, we've got Imavov, way less experience. 2 wins in his 3 fights. I mean, his last win was against Ian Heinisch. It was a TKO. That was just a few months ago. So that is something. Let's not forget that. Give him a credit there. It is something. But, I mean, they're similar in age. They're similar in reach. But I don't understand. The odds were actually swayed a little bit more before. But the odds right now are sitting at minus 105 Shabazian, minus 118 for Imavov. And I mean, if you were just listening to what I just said, that's crazy. That's crazy that Shabazian is an underdog. Yes, he did lose 2, but he lost to Brunson and Hermansson, and he never lost before that. and Imavov has only won 2 out of his 3 UFC fights. Like, you gotta bet Shabazian. I mean, it's crazy to me. And I did have this as my boosted odds for the week. I'm not sure if it's going to be going through. I hope it does. But that was my boosted odds for the week because it's crazy to me that he is not the favorite. I mean, again, I guess people just see the losing record and think, oh, I'm going to go for the other guy. But I just, you'd have to go with Shabazian on this, and I'm going with a decision on this. Again, it's a 3-rounder, so I'm saying a decision on this. And if you go look at the over under, they've got over 2.5 plus 105, the under 2.5 minus 134. I think that's actually kind of interesting. I might actually put money on the over at plus 105 because it's a 3-round fight. And I mean, they're both pretty good. I think this is going to be pretty close. Like I said, Shabazian by decision. You might want to throw some money, not just at Shabazian, but actually at the over as well. That's probably what I'll be doing. And the next prelim I want to talk about, and I mentioned it quickly earlier in a parlay opportunity, Phil Hawes, Chris Curtis. I'm mentioning this one because it's so wildly one-sided. It's insane. I mean, we'll talk about the odds later, but I mean, Hawes took this fight because his fight against Darren Wynn fell through a few weeks ago, sorry. And I'm also featuring it because Phil Hawes is just not somebody that you ever want to miss. But yeah, I mean, he's never lost in the UFC, and he has wins over Imavov, who I literally just talked about. That was Imavov's loss was against Hawes. So, and what was I just going to say? Oh, and he beat Kyle Dawkins. Kyle Dawkins just fought Kevin Holland and kind of beat him. I mean, he didn't really beat him, but I mean, it's insane to me that they're even really competing here. I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah, Hawes is the very clear favorite. So definitely throw him in a parlay. I mean, and you might even want to bet on a finish here because it's just that one-sided. I mean, I don't think this is even going to be close. So what you've got here for the odds, I'm stumbling a bit, of course, because we're over an hour in. I told you this is going to be a long one. It's just what happens after a while. Anyway, so you've got minus 334 for Hawes, plus 260 for Curtis. Yeah, you got to throw Hawes in a parlay. I mean, it's just so. I mean, actually, honestly, I would have thought he would have even been a bigger favorite, really. So yeah, throw him in a parlay for sure. And if you look at the over under, they've got over at plus 110 for 2.5. Under 2.5 is minus 140. Honestly, minus 140. Why not? Why not throw a couple bucks at that? That's a pretty good deal. Yeah, especially since like I said, that's 2.5 rounds. I think he's going to get a finish. It's wildly one-sided. Throw some money at the under as well. After that, directly after that, I should say, actually, is Al Iaquinta, Bobby Green. We haven't seen Iaquinta in 2 years, but he is a legend. I mean, he's got a spotty record. He's only got 1 win in his last 4. But again, all 3 of those losses, one was to Khabib, one was to Cerrone, one was to Hooker. I mean, those are pretty decent people to lose to, especially since we're talking about Cowboy from 2 years ago, who was actually doing very, very well. He was doing really well. So, it's not, I get all 3 of those, great competition. So, what was I going to say? He has a slightly better record recently and has been much. Oh, I didn't put his name down. Green, I should say. Green he obviously has a slightly better record recently, and he's been way more active than Iaquinta, obviously. But he's never fought the level of competition that Iaquinta has. I mean, not even close. So I think this is going to be a very, very close fight. I really do. But I'm leaning towards the experience and the hunger coming back here. I'm leaning towards Al Iaquinta. And there's another contributing factor here as well. All of their fights since 2017, that's 4 years now, have been by decision. Keeping that in mind, I'll be picking Iaquinta by decision. And we'll see why that's kind of important, the decision part of this in a bit. Because if you look at the odds, I'll talk about the over-under first because we were just talking about that. Over 2.5 rounds, so a decision basically, minus 375. That's crazy because I don't think I've ever seen an over-under that one-sided. But like I said, all of their fights since 2017 have been by decision. So I'm not saying, I mean, you might even want to throw that into a parlay, maybe even. But you also could say, maybe if you want to balance out your odds here, if you're betting on Iaquinta, oh yeah, I should say, Iaquinta, which I think is insane, is plus 145. Actually, that's not that insane, I guess, because of the time off. But like I said, this is an underdog that you might actually want to throw some money at. I'll definitely be throwing some money at him because he's just so experienced. And Bobby Green is at minus 180. I just don't see Green as that much of a huge favorite. I mean, you know, that's still reasonable. It's nothing crazy. It's not like minus 300 or something like that, but still. So, and you know what? If you want to balance out your odds here, you might even want to say bet on Iaquinta and then bet on the under 2.5. You know, I think you could do that. That's probably what I'm going to do. Because, yeah, both of those odds are pretty good for the taken. Anyway, after that, the last one that I'm going to talk about is Andreas Michailidis and Alex Pereira. This is the featured prelim of the night. And it's really fascinating, honestly. I mean, there's pretty much really no way to predict how this is going to go. So the odds to me are a little bit insane on this. It's very interesting because on the one side, you've got a fairly new UFC fighter, Michailidis, who's got 1 win and 1 loss in the UFC. But on the other side, you've got a Glory kickboxing champion, Alex Pereira, and he has pretty much no MMA experience whatsoever. He's got 3-1 right now. That's it. 3-1 in MMA. His kickboxing record, though, unreal. The most noteworthy fact of that is, if you've been paying attention to Twitter at all, he is the only person who has ever beaten Israel Adesanya twice and the only person who has finished Adesanya. So let's keep in mind that was not in MMA, that was in kickboxing, but still. And this was only a few years ago, by the way. I looked it up. I think it was about 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. So it's not like it was Izzy 10 years ago. This was Izzy just 4 or 5 years ago. So that's something pretty big. But again, it wasn't in MMA. So, you know, to be honest, I think what's happening here is I think this is one of those cases where the UFC is giving a potential new star, Pereira, an easier fight. I think that's kind of what they're doing here. Although I'm sure Michailidis is more well-rounded than Pereira. I mean, it's hard not to be considering you've only got 4 MMA fights. I just think that with that crazy kickboxing experience, he's probably going to finish Michailidis on the feet. That's just my guess. Regardless of what happens here, I mean, this is one you want to see just because of how interesting it is, because you don't normally see this, especially in the UFC. You see it a lot outside of the UFC, maybe in Bellator, maybe in other ones where you see, you know, former Olympians come in, like boxing Olympians, maybe even a wrestling Olympian, and they try their hand at MMA. But you don't normally see that in the UFC. So that's why this one is very, very interesting to watch. I'm going with Pereira by the finish here, just because of that just absolutely insane kickboxing record. The odds on this, minus 260 for Pereira. I get it. I get it because, again, I have him with the finish too. But he's pretty inexperienced in MMA, so I don't know if that's really all that fair. Michailidis plus 210. Also very interesting. The over-under on this is 1.5 rounds. So they've got under 1.5 at plus 116, minus 148 for over 1.5. Like, I get what they're saying here. They're basically saying Pereira is probably going to get a KO in the first or the second round. You know, that definitely could be fair. But again, we're talking about somebody who's been practicing MMA their whole life and who already has 2 fights in the UFC against somebody that hasn't really done MMA, but is an insane kickboxer. So I don't know. I just, I don't know which way to lean with that on the over-under, which I guess is why it's at 1.5. I don't know. That's a very intriguing one. I'll have to make up my mind on that later. I'm on the fence about that. I could see people picking either one of those. But I don't know. Actually, you know what? I don't even know. You might even want to put some money on the underdog here because, like I said, he's got no experience. Pereira has no experience really at all in MMA. So I don't know. But he's got the knockout power. So I don't know. You might want to throw it in a parlay, or even, you know what? Don't throw it out. Don't fuck up your parlay like this. Just throw some money, probably at Pereira. That's what I'm going to do. I might even throw some money, maybe even at under 1.5, plus 116. I don't know. Maybe you'll get a first round KO. This one's a weird one for me, like I said. But in terms of entertainment, you definitely want to see this one. And that is it. That is all we've got. It's the longest episode by far. We've got an hour and 17 in. Holy smokes. What a crazy, crazy episode. That is it for me. Like I said, all of my socials are in the description below. They're linked wherever you're watching, whether that's on Twitch, we've got YouTube, we've got Twitter. You can watch on all of them, any and all of them, all of them at the same time. No. If you want to hear about any of the other sports, whatever that may be, you can check out the Area 51 website. That is also linked below. They've got all your other sports, soccer, baseball, hockey, everything. Yeah. They've got everything for you. And I'm on there too, of course. Where am I going with this? I don't know. But I can't wait to see what's going to happen with all these fights this Saturday. My God, I'm struggling to find where we go. Okay, here we go. As I mentioned, I think I might have the boosted odds this week. I'm not sure. But either way, if you want to get a crazy sign-up bonus with Bet99, I actually just did this myself. So I have some bonus money sitting around. It wasn't that easy to do, but you know what? It was worth it. I got a couple extra $100 to mess around with, throw some money this weekend. I will show you right after this how you do that. You go click on the link below in the description, and the slide after this will tell you how. I'll see you next time. This was a way too long of an outro. I will see you next time. See ya.